Okay, so today you guys, you're here because you are here to learn more about classroom circles and how to implement them into your relationship building with your students. Now, please remember, if you've been to Kim Frank, how many of you have been to Kim Frank's in service? Okay. So this falls under the umbrella of restorative practices. This is one of the restorative practices. So we need to emphasize that and to keep that in mind for you, that your classroom circles may not look like what we do. We're just throwing ideas out there. You can take them in. You can change them as you need it or as it fits you. And then you can turn around. The goal here is to build a relationship with those people right there. Because as Ruby Payne said, right, there can be no education without a sound relationship with your students, okay? And it also is going to help them build relationships with one another once you establish some of these responsive classroom and restorative justice practices, okay? So it's a good, now, that being said, this is my team, these are my people here. I have one more person, but she chose baseball over me today, which is okay. But yes, let's introduce. Good point. Okay, so I'm Mary Belcher. We're all at Castle Heights. Here's a little something about myself. I taught in the same room, same grade, under the same principal for 14 years, or 13 or 14 years. Never moved rooms, never changed grades, never changed subjects. At first, I taught a little bit of math and other stuff too, but I've always taught social studies, and lately I've taught a little bit more. So I taught under Terry Trice for a long time, and then he retired, and then we have a new, wonderful principal, Michael Pigg, and so I was kind of like that anomaly, because we went through a big shakeup, where we went from upper elementary to an elementary school where everybody was moving. So I'm Mary Belcher, 5th grade. I like to teach social studies and science. I'm not a very good math teacher, right, Keegan? And so then, y'all probably need to pick up a microphone, maybe. I don't know. Or you want me to hand you this? I want $10.
I'm Megan Hutto. I'm also one of the 5th grade teachers at Castle Heights. Actually, haven't been there that long. It's just my 3rd year. But I came from Wilson County. You can forgive me for that.
Katrina Smith. I'm also at Castle Heights. I have been there 13 or 14 years, maybe. Mostly science and math now.
I'm Anna Reeves. I've been at Castle Heights. This will be my 3rd year. So Megan and I actually started at the same time. So I teach ELA and social studies. So I don't have a big story like Mary does, but
Well, no, just kidding. Well, so we're a good mix of what you might say. Well, now Megan has a lot of teaching history. Megan's been teaching for, yeah, but we're a good mix of new and old, and and Katrina and I came in together, and we say we're going to go out together. I don't know. We've got another 10 years, maybe 9 or 10 years, and so if we can make it that long. So Castle Heights, we teach 5th grade, and we were not excited about circles. Okay, Keegan, will you walk back there and fix that tape for me that fell down? We were not excited. Well, I was excited about circles. I went to an in-service a couple of years ago, and when Jeff Ashley gave an in-service, it was very small, not very many people were there, but he was explaining how classroom circles had helped out in the alternative school setting. And I was interested in, Amari, will you go help Keegan, please? The tape is beside him. I was interested in going because, like I said, what do you call it when you have a relationship with someone? Relationships are key to getting your students motivated to learn. And if you don't find a way to have a great relationship with them, then not as much learning is going to take place. So I'm always looking for ways to build that relationship with my students, whether it be, now sometimes you're lucky, right? Sometimes you have those students that the intrinsic reward of changing, they don't need your relationship as much. But then you have other students that are coming to you trauma-filled, and they think differently, they act differently, they respond to stress differently, and so building a relationship with them is totally different, as you might have learned in Kim Frank's in-service. about trauma-based brains and how they respond to stress, right? The amygdala is a big thing that can really cause students to really shut down on you because they're doing that flight thing when they get faced with stress. So, and amygdalas can be damaged, right? And they can be learned. The damage that happens to them when these students experience trauma, it can be learned to cope with, but whether or not that part of the brain ever gets truly healed is it probably doesn't take place. Their brains are always going to function a little bit differently. So we're building communication. So I went to this in-service, and we sat around, and I just thought, wow, this is pretty cool. I think this is something we can do. So we came to grade level meeting that summer, and they were talking about in-services we had been to, and I said, well, I went to a really cool one. It was about classroom circles. And it's something that I'm going to implement in my classroom because it's all about community building and building better relationships with your students. So we were sitting at a table, something like this. I was sitting on this end. Katrina, my love of my life, was sitting on the other end. And Katrina, show them your response. Yeah. Yeah, with a little bit of eye rolling. She was not on board. It was one of those things that was going to be one or more of those things that, how are we going to do it? How are we going to implement it? And what? But I guess we were bored that afternoon. We didn't have anything else to talk about, but we kept talking about it. And we came up with a plan of how to implement it. And we decided, hey, we'll implement it. She went to Mr. Pig. Luckily, he was very supportive of it. And he set aside the time for us to be able to do it twice a week on Mondays and Fridays. He set aside time for us to do it. And we were able to implement it. And Katrina will tell you about her experience with it in just a moment, but it turned out to be very beneficial for the students and for us. So you can blame us for you being here today, because I think we were one of the few across the district that were doing it at the time. And so they wanted us to come and show you this one tool of how to create better relationships or create a more sound community-based classroom, okay? So, restorative practices, that's what you went and talked to Kim about. These are all these things that make your school a safer place, a better place, a more place open to student learning. What do they mean? Restorative practices are all about, building healthy relationships between educators and students, reducing, prevent, and improve harmful behavior, repair harm and restore positive relationships. We got to repair harm. We don't need to punish as much as we do need to repair. We need to repair. Resolve conflict, hold individuals and groups accountable, and address and discuss the needs of the school community. So these are all restorative practices that we do. Now, why is the school system, I'm just giving you a little bit background so you'll know what the circles do in this bigger picture of restorative practices. So as you know, our traditional approach has been the rules have been broken, you're going to get punished, there will be justice, and the rules outweigh everything. And there's just this down here is very important. There's limited opportunity for expressing remorse or making amends. Whereas with this restorative approach that we all need to lean towards and build on, this is where we recognize that people and relationships have been harmed. Justice identifies needs and responsibility. Accountability equals understanding, impact, and repairing harm. And offender, victim, and school all have direct roles in the justice process. Offender is responsible for harmful behavior and repairing harm and working towards positive outcomes. And this is the last one here. Much opposite to this, opportunity given to make amends and express remorse. Okay, this is where the accountability comes in and the responsibility comes in. So there are many different approaches in the restorative practice, and circles are just one of them, although they pop up several times here. But like I said, please keep in mind, your circles don't need to have to look like ours. They can look at like whatever you want them to look like. A circle can be you and two other students. A circle can be, a whole class. A circle can be you and your teammates. I've had to have circles with them. They've had to have circles with me. Come on, Mary, get it together. So they can be a lot of things, and they work work on all of the tiers of this RTI2 that you're going to hear a lot about. Have you heard about that, the behavior tier? And on the bottom line, this is where all students are getting this. This is all the students. They're getting all the Tier 1 community building circles that build strength and relationships. Now, when there is a problem, that's when you move up to Tier 2. When there's been a conflict, when there's been some harm done, this is Tier 2. This is a restorative circle, and we'll talk about those today. And then, you know, Tier 3 is, I haven't participated in as many of these because Tier 3 is when those students have been removed, maybe to alternative school, and they're coming back into the classroom. So that's those Tier 3 students when they come back. And I've been a part of a couple of those, but that's probably more than admin or maybe somebody like that is going to do, okay? So that's where you're going to see that. So what are today's goals? Today's goals are for you to become comfortable with how to introduce and lead a circle meeting. It's for you to become familiar with the types of circles and various tools used during circles, and you will understand restorative questions and how to use them. There's some kind of, when you get to that restorative justice where harm has been done, there's some important questions that you ask, and you'll learn about those. And teachers will understand effective communication and will experience how it supports classroom discipline and community building. So you're going to see how communication can build a community. Teachers will understand how circles help build empathy and interpersonal skills within their students. So that's our goal for today. By the time you leave here today, hopefully a little bit early, you will know all these things. So, Katrina, it looks like this is a video for introducing, and I don't see a play on here. So just so you know what it looks like from the children's perspective, and while she's getting that ready, let me give you a little walk around the room. Over here are some snacks because I believe in eating, and my students know that. So, I mean, if it's not a Dorito or a Funyun, so if you need a snack or some candy, I'm going to talk about this corner here in a minute. That's a calm down corner. And then Katrina will talk about some of these other things back here. But if you need a snack or something, they're right over there. I hear there's food next door, so maybe when there's a break, we can go and get leftovers. Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. So here's some students' perspective on circles and why they like them and how they work. Present and then press play. Is it? Y'all so smart. Maybe y'all not so smart. Okay, we'll find it later. We'll work on it and then get back to y'all about it. But and the students are going to come in a minute, and they're going to be able to answer all your questions about circles, what they look like, and how they work anyway. So when we get that ready to go, at some point, hopefully, we'll pull it. Wait, it's loading or something, isn't it? I don't know what it is. Okay, so why circles? Let's talk about why circles, why they're important, why they work, okay? Now, as I told you earlier, we wanted y'all to be in a circle today, but because of the regulations, we couldn't do that. But if you'll look at these two pictures, what do you know different between this one and that one? What's different? Right, everybody can see one another, right? There's also this sense of openness. And so people, it feels more like people are receptive to what's being said, right? Instead of what we're doing here and now. What are we doing here and now? Miss Belcher's standing up here talking, and you're sitting there quietly and listening, right? I may feel open to you, but I don't get a sense of openness from you. So that's the difference. It is unspoken that you are to sit there and listen while I deliver the message, right? You're not an equal participant. So that's why circles are better. And circles were used for centuries and centuries and centuries. Think about it. Knights of the Round Table, Native Americans, even the United Nations meets in a circle so that everybody can see one another. And there's also certain religious groups that meet in circles. This stopped happening when we turned into more of a patriarchal society, meaning that the men were the leaders, right, ladies? Sorry, John, but the men turned into leaders, and the men said, and along with the evolution of religion, too, the men said, it is better, and information is better taught if people listen and you deliver. And so women listened to that, and we turned into a society of sitters and listeners instead of the circle meeting. And the weird thing is that even with the Native Americans, back then, when they would have their meetings, they were in circles, and a lot of the times, us, women, we were in charge. We got to lead the circles. We were seen as valuable people. But as society progressed, it was determined that we needed to be more like this, to sit in rows and to listen. And so that was kind of the bad thing. But what we all know now is that we are not meant to sit in lines or in squares. We are meant to sit in circles as peers, as a community. So that is what we know now. So here's what we know about circles. They're a safe, solid, permeable space with an inside and an outside and a focus that moves from person to person. As you saw in that slide back here, this focus can move from here to here to here to here. It's all over the place. That's a lot harder with this group right here. So that's the focus moves around. It's a welcoming form where everyone can see each other, all voices are heard, and the space is trusting and inviting. So what are the benefits of circles that you're going to learn about today? Everyone has a voice. It's useful for addressing social and emotional issues. It sets an empowering tone for instruction and learning. It ensures that everyone is seen. It increases engagement and attention. It decreases disciplinary problems. And it is used for focusing, refocusing, and also mindful activities. I know there are some of you out there that like this situation you're in because you can disappear, right? You can check your phones, you can check your watches for messages, but if we were sitting in a circle, you would feel more obliged to participate and to open up and talk. So as we move through the day today, you're going to find out that there are stages of the circles. You're not going to jump into the major high questions in your circles. You're going to start with community, building relationships. We cannot have getting acquainted. We cannot have a circle, a restorative justice circle, if you have not gotten acquainted and you haven't built relationships. Then you can move on to addressing issues. So this is the most important thing here, is getting acquainted and building relationships. That's what you're going to do those first few weeks of school. And I know some of you will be distance learning, and it is possible to do it through that too. And we're going to show you ways to do that later. So this is the circle stages right here. So to start this off and to get you up out of your seats, we're going to do a little activity here that is called Ways to Meet and Ways to Greet. And what I do with this is, at the beginning of the year, this is how all my circles start out. I don't start out sitting them, well, we do a little bit, but I do a lot of this too. And Amari, do you remember, Keegan, do you remember us doing this? I want y'all to participate too when we do this in a minute so you can meet the other teachers. But what I would tell the students is I would give them a way to move, a way to greet someone, and a topic to share when they meet them. Okay? And so, and it would just be random, and then I would call back and we would do another one. So everybody needs to stand up and stretch. Give yourself a stretch.
You too, kids.
Now, when you mask on, sorry guys, you got to put your mask on because you're going to be closer than 6 feet. When you hear this sound, that means we're going to move on to the next one, okay? But let's just start with, how about you dance your way over to someone, give them a fist bump, and tell them your favorite dessert. And go. Good. Yeah, it works. Students, y'all need to come out here and mingle with the adults. All right, next, let's waddle over to someone, give them some spirit fingers, and tell them about your dream meet. Who are you just dreaming to meet? Go. Students, come out here. Waddle, spirit fingers. And who's your dream meet? All right, next, let's do a walk on your heels. Make a silly face and tell the person you meet. Yes, walk on your heels, make a silly face, and tell the person you meet how many pets you have and what their names are. Go. Walk on your heels. Yeah, silly face would be hard with the math. Okay, last one. I think it would be great if you guys could hop on over, wink at someone, and tell them what you're grateful for. Hop, wink, and tell them what you're grateful for. All right, we're going to do one more because Keegan wants to. This is his favorite one. Do a zombie walk, do a hip bump, and tell the person your favorite color and then go back to your seat. Zombie walk, hip bump, and your favorite color. Then you may return to your seat. All right, so once again, that's how I start the year with several days of this right here, ways to meet, ways to greet, and it helps the students because it puts everybody at the same level. Everybody's doing the same thing, and I think everybody has to get out of their comfort zone a little bit. Katrina thinks that she has. She thinks she'll have this video working here. While we're waiting, everybody welcome Miss Kim Orr to the meeting. She's tired, and she wants you to sit right here. Why are you tired? Uh-huh. That's all online, isn't it? It's just a jumping through the hoops, isn't it? What you get your graduate degree in? But like, is it admin or is it, oh, just the MAT? Yeah, okay. Well, it's that whole pedagogy thing, you know, we got to know about the children. So, you only have to wear that if you're within 6 feet of someone. I love Kim. We're trying to get a video to load. You missed the best part of me, though. I'm sorry. Lots. Yeah. I have a lot to say, yeah. But you're being recorded. Yeah, just so you know. Yeah, so we're all watching what we do. Thank you, Keegan. Hey, Keegan, do your thing. What is it? Thank you, Keegan. I missed that. You should do it again, Keegan. Okay. They'll introduce themselves in just a moment. So once again, this is going to be an introduction video to restorative practices and circles and student voices. But you will be hearing their voices also here in just a moment. My parents have always, taught us to talk things out. So I grew up because I'm working hard at that, and I hope that my students can attest to the fact that even though we didn't get to finish the school year together, they knew they were a part of our homeroom, C101, the fifth grade, and we had each other's back. I play a song at the beginning of the year also from Playing for a Change, and it's called Stand By Me, and it's where different cultures around the world sing the same song. And when it's over, the students and I talk about how even though these people were from Africa, from Italy, from Spain, we're all singing the same song and the same message that was, we've got each other's back. We're going to take care of you. And that's one of the first things that I'm going to do when something goes wrong in the classroom is I'm going to say, that you don't have the right to do that in here because we take care of one another in here. So they're going to get that message strong from us. So Katrina's going to talk to you about when we do circles, how we do them, and then the students are going to, is this right? And so Katrina's going to take up the next part here and show you more student involvement.
Okay, so while they're setting up, I'm going to share my testimony a little bit about circles. As Mary said at the beginning, I thought, oh my gosh, one more thing on the platter that is all the things that we have to do, and I was not excited about it. But we kind of have a motto. It's, we may disagree, but we commit to a decision as a fifth grade team, and we do it. So I started out small. I did the ball that some of you have seen Kim Frank do with the questions, and we just started out that way. But I really told myself at the beginning of the year, I have not, even after almost 20 years of teaching, I may have had a close relationship with a couple of my students, but a goal of mine was to have a relationship with all my students. And it wasn't just about academics, because there's a lot that I don't know about their personal lives that would help me understand who they are and where they're coming from. And this is going to sound so silly, but I started thinking to myself, I have never had a student invite me to their high school graduation. And when I don't even know why I thought about that, and it hurt my feelings a little bit. And so I said, I can see this as a good way to build those relationships, keep those relationships. So we started out small. We started out doing the ball. We started, what was the thing? You're famous. You walk in the room. What's the first thing people say about you and all this kind of stuff. But through the year, that developed into doing actual circles and building community through those circles. And sometimes we had really serious circles, didn't we, Emily? And sometimes we just had fun circles. Like, I think they loved the one where you had to tell us what your hidden talent was, and then you got to do your hidden talent. And it was probably one of the funniest things that I've ever seen. But we had them Monday morning. We started our first block a little bit later than usual. And I think for us, I know at Castle Heights, it's built into our schedule this year. And then, so that kind of started out our week. And then on Friday afternoons at about 2:30, 2:15, 2:30, we would close our week with a circle. And sometimes on Friday afternoons, I was having to push my kids out the door to the bus because we ran out of time and they wanted to keep talking. I'm like, but you have to go. And they're like, well, can we keep talking about it on Monday? Well, yeah. And so they would come to school Monday, like, remember, Miss Smith, we have to finish our circle from Friday. But of all years for us to start this, this was the perfect year to start it because our year got cut short. And I was able to I think all of us were able to keep those relationships with our students. And we still had circles on Zoom we just did one day a week. But it has thoroughly helped not just my relationship with the students, but the students' relationships with each other. And being able to voice their emotions to each other, because fifth graders have a really hard time at doing that appropriately. And this has really helped them to, even though they might be mad as fire at each other, they've still respected each other when we have to have a restorative circle and say, okay, now what happened here? How did that make you feel? And they've been really open and honest, and I think we probably solved all 99 of the problems we had, don't you think? So, but we invited some students to come in. How many of you already use circles? Okay. Are you here at Winfrey Bryant? Okay. And what school are you at? Okay. So I know that some of the middle school teachers told us last time that they've used them some, but I don't think it was like regularly. And don't think that circles have to look the same every single day. Like the whiteboard message that I made y'all do your little post-it for, sometimes that was what we would consider to be our community building. Sometimes it was a silly question like, watermelon is the answer, what's the question? Sometimes it was, wishing well Wednesday and tell me your greatest wish. And sometimes we would, they would have a post-it and they would write a little message to a classmate who might need lifting up. I mean, it doesn't have to look like everybody's sitting in a circle every day for 15 minutes. There's lots of ways to do it. But we're going to have the kids come up, and we're going to practice the circle, and then we're going to give y'all an opportunity to ask the students about circles, how they felt about them, just any kind of questions. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
My name is Evie Crandall, and I'm going to Bryant. My name is Amari Howard, and I'm going to Winfrey Bryant. My name is Amy Thorne, and I'm also going to
My name is Skeet Jones, and I'm going to Winfrey Bryant.
My name is Reese Armstrong, and I'm going to Winfrey Bryant. My name is Emily Johnson, and I am going to Walter J this year.
All right, so I want to talk today about one thing that you have learned about yourself since you've been in quarantine. One thing you've learned about yourself since you've been in quarantine. Okay, think for just a minute. Emily, you want to start it? Okay.
I've learned that I'm more active in the school. I'm a lot like my mom, and I have a lot of memories.
like most about circles? Actually, let's do like a rose and a thorn. One thing you liked and one thing you did not like. Like that you could talk to multiple people at once and you could share your life story. You said you didn't like that sometimes there were so many people that you just had to limit what you were able to say because of time constraints. This is the second time she brought that up.
I just like to talk in general, so being able to talk a little more was fun. And getting to know people a little more what they have to say anyway, or being able to meet is pretty cool. And what I dislike is sometimes people wouldn't pay attention if you talk to people, what I liked about
So one of our rules is that whoever has the talking piece is the only person that gets to speak, and you know that's a respect thing for the person who has the talking piece. But then sometimes you know the other kids wanted to add to it, and what we did in our homeroom was if you wanted to add something, then you could raise your hand and share with them, you know, kind of feed off of whatever they were talking about. All right, last question I'm going to ask you is, tell me your favorite topic that you did in Circle Time. Favorite topic. It could be funny, it could be silly, it could be serious, anything. Favorite one.
my favorite topic is what your favorite smell, because there were some funny stuff that everybody mine had to be because if you could look at a person and say, I don't think they can do that, and then they would show you, hey, I can do this.
Telling jokes.
There was a lot of topics, but you can't remember them all. So, you know, some of the things that we talked about, what was the number one rule that we talked about? What happens in circle stays in circle. And I can honestly say, I think our group this year was really good. our group this year was really good about not taking things that had been said in circles in confidentiality and taking it to other kids at recess and things like that. There were some serious things that were shared sometimes. We had to have a talk about what's appropriate to say to the teacher and what's appropriate to say to the class. So sometimes we had to say, okay, that's a conversation I need to have, and we'll have that later. But I think, I mean, I don't know of anybody that really took anything from the circle and shared it with others. Now, we had a couple of pot stirrers, but it wasn't anything too serious. So, what questions do you guys have for them? And this is like, they know the circle is a safe place, and no matter what they say about us or about circles, we're not going to take, they can speak freely about it, like Amy saying, about blurting in, and it's fine. I mean, that's how we learn, and that's how they learn as well. So what questions do you guys have for them? Yeah.
Like when we had those new students that got transferred to our classroom, when we had a new student, at the end of the day, I would go and I would say, we were very fluid homerooms, and sometimes if there was a bad mix in one homeroom, we would transfer a student. And so when we would get one of these students, y'all remember, don't say any names, that we would get some students, and I would just let Mr. Pig know. I would say, I've got to have a welcome circle this afternoon. He would let me know when they were coming, and I'd say, I need a welcome circle. And so y'all remember having a welcome circle, and we would talk about what would we tell that student. What the expectations were, what we accepted, what we didn't accept, what worked for us, and it was always very well received. And what were some of the expectations for our homeroom, Amari? No, everything from table manners, and I think we worded it as, what is it going to take to be successful in this homeroom? Things that were tolerated and not tolerated. Do you remember any of those that we tolerate and we don't accept from one another? So yeah, everything like that, but especially welcoming a new student, we needed to let them know that we had each other's backs, that we were a classroom community, and things that wouldn't be accepted was making fun of people, right? For what, Keegan? Was something that you weren't allowed to make fun of somebody about? Do you remember? Oh, Amari remembers. Amari? Food shaming, yes. I do not like that, of course. So we would have a big talk about that, about food shaming, because you remember you go in the cafeteria and somebody brings their lunch and ooh, and so somebody goes, ooh, I don't like that. That's nasty. And I did not tolerate that at all. No food shaming in the cafeteria, because we have different cultures, of course. And then also intelligence, anything like that we would talk about. So you got something to say about that, that's how we did welcome circles. I always like the question. I think the students should tell y'all. I asked Evie at the end of the year when I was talking to her, I said, Evie, what's something I could have done differently? And so I want y'all to tell us what's something your teachers could have done differently to make circles better. And make sure you mention your teacher's name. This is the fun part. So, yeah, that's a good idea too, to have, y'all have one too. So, that's a good idea. Anything else, Evie? Okay. Pass it on down and,
would just like randomly like tell like a life story and then like say, oh, I'm not gonna do it anymore, and then like 5 seconds later tell another story. So in our homeroom, since we didn't have that much time to talk, we had a limited time. So if someone was trying to speak and answer a question or talk about something that happened, I don't really like how the teacher interrupts and takes that time away from you when you're trying to say something, and then she just moves on to the next person since you don't get to say anything. And I'm not trying to throw my teacher under the bus, but she kind of talks like someone else in this room, Miss Long. So I just don't, I'd rather have that time instead of the teacher.
Because some kids really get going and they really want to talk and they have good things to share. And then some of them, they just have like one word. So it's hard to get it just right. Now, the last group, somebody asked, does everybody have to share an answer? And I think we differed on that. I think that all of my kids did an answer. Even if, we copied what Reese said, they had to give some sort of answer. If they couldn't think of one immediately, we would come back to them, but they still had to give some sort of answer. Because, this is about learning about others. I wanted this to share with this senior student who went on vacation, so I can't be mad at him. But there was one incident that we had in one of our circles. We had a new student. We had welcomed him what are you doing? So they held it as a little discussion. What other questions?
What you just pointed was how the circles evolve, and it evolves by getting acquainted and building relationships. So I told them we usually start out with a ways to greet and meet, and so we would stand up and just walk around. I'd give them a cue, walk like a zombie, wink at someone, and tell them your favorite color. And so that you got to build those communities first, and you let them get to know each other, and then we're going to move on to circle topics with the low risk questions, and then when you have these problems, you're going to move into the high risk questions because you can't go straight into yeah. So there's places online where you can find those, but listen to the commonalities here between all the students. They said one thing. All of them have said the same thing about circles. They were heard. They needed to be heard. They felt heard, and when they wanted to talk and be heard again, they got grumpy because it wasn't their turn. So that was so important to them to be heard, just being heard. So I would start, so please remember that as long as you are hearing them, you really can't go wrong even if your questions aren't that great. You just basic, what was something you did last year that you like? What's your favorite food? We start with really basic questions, and then we move them to more of the heart hitters. I don't know.
Well, I like some of my favorite color ones because I had a lot of them, but everybody else thought it was cool being able to see that everybody else could see. Say it has, you have to put the creativity into it and learn it.
My favorite one is being your favorite book.
I really like how they create set. So like then like start to for the beginning of the year, like what was the first part about
As you can see, Amari's a foodie like me. Amari always, anytime food came up, Amari, Evie, you're kind of a foodie too, weren't you? You enjoy food, but Evie's answers were always a little bit more complex. And but Amari's he was always happy, and today's a great day. So, you have something else, Amari? Yeah. Once again, I think our tables in the cafeteria are circles, so Amari is transferring circles in the classroom. Circles in the cafeteria, but yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
Oh, Reese? Probably now maybe, but I'm very excited. Where I am now, but when I was in first grade, I went to Austin. Probably not.
Morgan, I think you're going to surprise yourself with the types of things that they're willing to talk about and will be able to talk about. And like I said, Miss Reeves is actually going to share. She is a kindergarten teacher, kindergarten teacher sister, and so she's kind of actually collaborated a little bit with Lisa to talk to you guys about our lower grade teachers about what that could look like too. So definitely. Sorry.
I would definitely want to do that because I really like to get to know people because in school I feel like I'm an outgoing person that doesn't want to get to know more because in public and sometimes at home I'm shy to my family members. So being at school and knowing a bunch of people really helps with confidence level. So if I was in big circles, I would really like it because then my outgoing self just trot around and I'd get to know people better and like you said, kind of like connect
Emmy, Emmy, can you speak to that? Because you know we had Miss Vincent join us a few times and Miss Campbell join us.
Whenever, um, you know, our our music teacher passed away this year, and that was probably the toughest circle we've ever had before. But it allowed the students to open up about their feelings about um, Miss Stumney, her death, everything, and we found that some of them felt bad because what did a lot of, like Reese just said, they felt like sometimes they didn't take the class seriously or they didn't take her seriously. Um, and it was, we talked about it was okay for them to feel that way because when you're 10, you take those things like to heart. And we as teachers don't take things, like I teach math. I know my kids are not going to love math, I don't take that personally, but they don't see it that way. So it was really good to be able to talk about that. And since we had already built those relationships with them, it was easier for them to talk about those feelings and answer the questions that they have and those sorts of things. So, like I said, it was a really good year to start building these classroom circles with our fifth graders this year. Anything else anybody wants to add? Because y'all are about to host the circle.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so here in just a minute, I've divided you guys into our participants. I've divided you guys into some smaller groups, and we are going to have the students. We're going to have the students help us, like go with you guys. If that's okay. And we're going to do. We are going to do a couple, like. We'll do yellow and blue together. Yes, we will. This won't take very long, and then we will give you guys a break. So I know you guys are needing that right now. Okay, so in the group with Miss Reeves, Miss Smith, and let's do Emily, Keegan, and Reese. Hannah Anderson, Keisha Binion, Christy Hutto, Katie Lewis, Jenny Ship. If you guys, and let's look at everybody. Yes. Is that good? Okay. And let's do, that group is going to be over there. So you guys can stand up and go that way with Miss Reese, Miss Smith, and then our three students. They're going to go. And then the rest of you guys are going to be up here with us, with Emmy, Amari, and Evie, and Miss Belcher and myself. Just bring your chair up here and we'll... Do it. Yes. Uh-huh. No, that's okay. That's okay. You're with us. Okay. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, Amari. Yellow green, you are up there. Okay, yes. Sorry, guys. here.